Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out True Off My Chest. Story 1. My mom's boyfriend implied I sleep with him. I want to get this off my chest. I 23F live with my mom and her boyfriend 46M. Other than the normal uncomfortable feelings you get living with someone who you hardly know, everything was decent until yesterday. My mom's boyfriend came home earlier than usual from work. Turns out he got into an argument with some of his co-workers that ended up being physical and he might have lost his job. It's pretty unknown right now. He was playing loud music and making a lot of noise, so I left him alone until I got kinda hungry later on and left my room to get something. He was drunk, like heavily drunk. He immediately gave me a hug when I came into the kitchen and was telling how his day was shit because of his anxiety of his daughter being in school and not being able to contact him since they took her phone. Dunno, she's in Mexico. I dunno how they do their stuff over there, and that his co-workers weren't helping and one thing lead to another and that's why he's home so early. I stayed in the living room to keep him company since I felt bad that he was feel sad. Then he started talking about some life lessons and other stuff that were happening. Now my mom is leaving town for 2 weeks to visit my sibling who's going into labor soon, and he was talking about how bummed he was that she was leaving and how he doesn't know how to manage without her. I should have gotten up and left as soon as he started talking about their problems. He started ranting about how he was going to miss her and how much he loves her, but he didn't know what he was going to do for the 2 weeks she'd be gone for and that his needs weren't going to be taken care of. I told him he'd be fine and it'll be okay. Then he started talking about how I needed a man who was going to provide and give me what I want since I too much woman for my current boyfriend to handle. It threw me off, but I told him that my boyfriend is very sweet and bright. Then he repeated that he needed his urges fulfilled while my mom was gone. Again I tell him he'd be fine. That's when he looks at me and asks me if I'd help him out. I immediately started to realize what exactly he meant and just laughed awkwardly while saying no. Then he started asking me how I like sex and what was my sex life like. I was starting to feel gross and uncomfortable that I pressed the pillow I hand on my lap closer to my body, and he just kept staring at me in a way that made me want to cry, like he was undressing me. He then gets up while staring at me and hugs me, kissing my cheek and feeling my sides, and I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. Once he let go and went to the restroom, I got up so fast I practically ran to my brother's room where he was asleep and just sat on his bed waiting for him to wake up. Now I don't know what to do. Story 2. I have to work out, but for the life of me cannot get motivated. I've been fat my whole damn life and I was fully aware of it. I knew it was slowly getting worse, but I didn't have any health issues, so I didn't think it was really that bad. Well, today my mama and I measure ourselves, took our weight, and measurements around biceps, thighs, neck, hips, and stomach. I don't measure/weigh myself often, maybe once a month if I get too curious, mostly because I know I won't like the numbers regardless of what they are. Some people see something they don't like and that motivates them to change it. For whatever reason, my brain doesn't work like that. It actually makes me feel less enthusiastic, which I'm sure at least someone can relate to. All my numbers were so much worse than I thought they'd be. My weight was 221, I'm 5 feet 9 and /175 cm for context, which was unfortunately the least disappointing. Hips I knew would be big, thighs I knew would be big, biceps I knew would be small, cause I'm a weakling TT, but my neck was 15 in, 38 centimeters, around, and my stomach 45 in, 114 centimeters, around at the navel. I know that's bad. I know I have the power to change it. It would hardly impact my work life at all to start working out. But I just don't. I cannot motivate myself. My mom even offers to take me to the gym with her, and I still can't force myself. WTF is going on? I hate the dishes, but I can force myself to do that, same with cleaning or laundry, or anything else I hate doing. How can I kick myself in the ass and just get this started? I'm planning on getting married in less than 5 years, and I don't want to look back at those photos and only be able to focus on how awful I think I look. Story 3. I have a crush on an anime character. I have a massive crush on this one anime character. He seems very sweet and he acts like a gentleman. No guy has ever been like that towards me in real life. I ended the last relationship I was in because of them stalking me, acting possessive, and trying to pressure me into things. This character seems like the absolute opposite of that. I know it sounds pathetic, but I needed to get it off my chest, I guess. Story 4. I left my abusive family in the mid of the night. Before my F19 mother, 37, died, she tried to kill me multiple times. She tried drowning me, strangling me, and pointing a gun to my head. All before I turned 8-year-old. At the age of 4, my dad walked out on me and my mom and sister. 2 years later, my mother and I were on the metro and she passed out and wouldn't wake up. A few hours later, a CPS worker proceeded to take me and my sister, 5, to a foster home. I was physically and mentally abused, and after 6 months of being there they gave me back to my mother. My mother proceeded to abuse me more and more often, landing me and my sister in another foster home. After a year putting me back with my mother, and after my mother was detained, I was left with a so-called family friend. The family friend then gave me to my grandmother, treated me like an angel. My mom then got me from my grandmother, putting me with me dad, 40, and after 3 weeks we finally felt like we could live in peace, but started to call me a whore, a mistake, and I should have never been born. My doctor told me I need therapy because I was crazy all my life, people, though I was crazy. My dad remarried to my stepmom, where I suffered even more abuse from both my stepmom and dad. When I finally turned 18 at midnight, I left and went to stay with my best friend, 17. Her parents already were aware that I would be coming, and they were the ones who made them plan for me to level at 18. I'm now living with my best friends and her parents and have a job at McDonald's. While working on college applications, my parents still try to figure out a way for me to come back by blackmailing, saying they would report kidnapped but never did. Story 5. My friends forgot my birthday. I, 22F, have been best friends with this group of people since high school. We graduated together, enrolled in the same uni together, and have celebrated every birthday, anniversary, nigh up until this point. We even made plans for this nigh last week. The thing is that only one friend, 21M, out of 4 of them, called me in the morning to wish me happy birthday. I assumed others will text me eventually, since all of us are busy with exams/jobs. They did text me. To my surprise, it wasn't birthday related, just some random reels that aren't even that funny. I'm probably too old to be dramatic about this, but it really hurts. Mainly, because less than a month ago we were out and joking about birthdays and how I always make it a point to remember people's birthdays, and that's the bare minimum to remember about your friends and family. I saved up to take them out somewhere after exams end to celebrate. I even planned to take them out someplace they like, because if I chose a restaurant/bar/club I prefer they wouldn't show up, apart from the friend who called me. I even wanted to take the girls from the group on a small trip, but I don't know anymore since most of my ideas get shot down or people bail in the end. I honestly don't know if I should do that now or use that money for a small solo trip I always wanted to go on. I am sorry for formatting and the way this was written, since English isn't my first language. It sounds more dramatic than it actually is. Thank you for reading 3. Story 6. Trying to come to grips with the fact that I was abused. Warnings for emotional abuse and financial abuse. So for the context of the story, this happened years ago, but around 2011 to 2014. I, 16M, was in a relationship with my then at the time girlfriend, 17F, thought out high school. I was so excited when we first started talking because it all was just clicking, and it of course felt great. But like with most relationships, when you are that age you don't fully understand how to be in a relationship or what signs to look for on if someone would be a good partner. Things went from good to pretty sour really fast. I remember she would constantly talk to her ex, who she said hit her. I was very confused by this and didn't understand why you would want to talk to someone that did that stuff to you. That was when I found out that she was actually cheating on me with her ex. I wish I could say that was the last time, but it was only the beginning. She ended up telling me about it when we were sitting in my car outside of my house one day. She was crying and I remember I was just silent. I felt so numb. I felt so betrayed. I was putting my all into this relationship just for her to do this. I remember sitting there and just asking myself, what should I do? That was when I was asking for a sign of I should stay with this lady. When I was questioning her on why she did it, she all of a sudden stopped crying. She got really mad and said, "Why does that matter?" I was very off-put by this. I looked at her and said, "Well, I mean, you cheated on me and I just don't understand why you did this." She quickly fired back with, "I'm allowed to do whatever I want." I was completely blown away by this. I sat there and something in me started to swell up. Was she really getting upset with me for being upset? So I just kinda sat there and I apologized for reacting that way. I wish I would have seen the warning signs earlier in our relationship that this wasn't going to end up well for me. She told me very early on in our relationship that I wasn't allowed to talk to or see my friends. She said she didn't like them and that I needed to stay away. She also said I wasn't allowed to play any games. Whenever I did play games, it had to be at her house and it had to be Call of Duty and nothing else. She said every other video game scared her. She also said that I wasn't allowed to watch anything without her. The thing is, when I say these things I really do mean it. I remember I watched some videos on YouTube at my house, Rooster Teeth at the time, and she asked me over text what I was up to. So I told her what I was doing and she then calls me. She started screaming at me and saying that I betrayed her. We would also only go to the places she wanted to go to. She forced me to drive to her house every single day. If I didn't, then she would yell at me for it. And when I mean yell at me, I really do mean yell. The only person that I heard yell like that before was my dad. She also would force me to pay for everything. I had to buy all of our food, I had to pay for her car when it needed worked on, I had to buy her a dog. Yes, she forced me to buy her a dog. Like, I still don't get why I was just letting all of this happen. But I was honestly scared. I was scared of her. I was scared that if I didn't do these things, then she would leave me. At the time my family was all in a different state. Yes, my family left me behind in a different state before I even got to my senior year. I was living at her uncle's house. She would then go on to cheat on me even more. She cheated on me about 3 more times from what I know. When we broke up, she was actually the one that broke up with me. She found another guy and didn't want me anymore. I was so messed up from this relationship and unfortunately brought a lot of the baggage into my marriage now. I started seeing a therapist 2 years ago and I had to tell him about all of this. My therapist would go to tell me that she was abusing me. She was making sure that I didn't have my own money to live on my own or do the things that I wanted to do. When my therapist told me this, I just got a 1,000-yard stare. I completely dissociated. There was no way that I was abused. I heard so much about abuse and I just looked at it and told myself that there is no way that that could happen to me. It still is something that I am struggling with. I am constantly getting struck with the realization of things that she did to me and what they truly mean. It still surprises me just how much that relationship messed me up. Being in my amazing marriage now has really opened my eyes to that even more. If anyone out there is thinking to themselves that some of this sounds like their own relationship, then I implore you to get out as quickly as you can. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.